This story is a whole new experience. Let's begin.
They called me just a truck driver while I was rolling past the edge of Toledo with my chest tight and my coffee already cold. The call came through my dashboard speaker at 11:42 p.m. My son Daniel did not say hello first. He said, "Dad, can you stop telling people you still drive nights? It makes us look like we never helped you." I kept both hands on the wheel. I asked him what he meant. He sighed like I had embarrassed him on purpose. "You're 58, he said. "You should have planned better. You can't keep acting like being a truck driver is some sacrifice." I looked at his contact photo on the dash screen. It was still from his college graduation. I had not told him I skipped lunch and dinner twice that week so I could buy my blood pressure medicine. I had not told him I slept in the truck because a motel cost more than I had left after fuel and prescriptions. I had not told him every time my chest tightened, I promised myself I would pull over. Then I kept driving anyway. Because men like me get used to surviving quietly. Daniel hung up after his wife said something in the background. I heard it before the line cut. Why does he always make everything sound hard?
That line hurts because he's not complaining. He's surviving, man.
I pulled into a rest area near Perrysburg after midnight and sat with the engine humming under my feet. On the passenger seat was a brown envelope held shut with a rubber band. Inside were old receipts I never showed anybody. Daniel's first semester tuition, Emily's anatomy books, apartment deposits, checks I wrote with hands that smelled like diesel, road dust, and cold coffee. I did not keep them because I wanted repayment.
A father doesn't keep receipts for money. He keeps them for memory.
I kept them because they reminded me the miles meant something. After my wife died, people told me I had done enough. But Daniel still had 2 years left at Ohio State, and Emily had just gotten into a medical program I could barely afford. So I sold the little house in Toledo, rented a room behind a mechanic's shop, and took every night route Dispatch would give me. I told the kids I was saving for retirement. At first, they called all the time. They needed money, signatures, rides, encouragement, and somebody to tell them they were not failing. I could have $12 left and still say, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." Then they graduated. Daniel got an office job in Columbus, where the windows went from floor to ceiling. Emily moved to Cleveland and started walking hospital hallways with a badge clipped to her coat. I told every dispatcher, "My boy works in finance. My girl's a doctor." I said it like their success washed the grease off my hands. But their calls got shorter. Then they got scheduled. Then they got missed. One Thanksgiving, they met me at a diner near the turnpike because I had a load due the next morning. Daniel looked through the window at my rig and said, "You still driving that thing?" Emily smiled quickly and looked around like someone might hear. I said, "It still runs." Nobody shouted. Families do not always break loudly. Sometimes they break in small sentences said over coffee.
That's real. Families don't always break with shouting. Sometimes it's just distance. Yeah.
By 58, I had become a story they edited around. If someone asked what their father did, they said, "He's in transportation." They were comfortable enough to forget who had been uncomfortable for them. That week, I was running loads between Toledo, Dayton, and Indianapolis. My left arm had ached for 3 days, and I blamed the cold. At a truck stop outside Findlay, I picked up a banana, water, and half a sandwich from the discount rack. I put the sandwich back. Medicine first. Food could wait. In the parking lot, I opened a text to Emily. Typed, "Sweetheart, you got a minute? Been feeling a little off." Then I deleted it. And I had spent too many years making sure my children never had to worry about me. That night, Emily called for the first time in 7 weeks. I answered too fast. "Hey, sweetheart. Dad, Daniel and I need to talk to you. Are you still on the road?" I said, "Near Toledo. What happened?" She told me my granddaughter Lily had Grandparents' Day coming up at school. Lily wanted me there. For a second, the ache in my chest softened. Then Emily said, Please look presentable, and maybe don't bring the truck. I stared out at the fuel pumps. I'll try, I said. They wanted the father they could display, not the father who had paid the cost. I drove another 2 hours because the load had to be in by morning. Just after 3 a.m., my right hand went numb. The road blurred at the edges. I eased onto the shoulder near Bowling Green and sat there, breathing like something inside my ribs had closed its fist. I reached for my phone. I called both. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. The dashboard lights looked too bright. I tried to write something on the back of a fuel receipt because I suddenly understood there might not be time for the perfect conversation later. My hand shook so badly I only got 6 words down. I didn't raise you to owe me. Then the pen slipped between the seats. A highway patrol officer found me 40 minutes later after another driver reported a rig sitting crooked on the shoulder. At the hospital, the nurse asked for an emergency contact. For the first time in years, I did not know which child would answer.
Imagine giving your whole life to your kids and not knowing who to call.
That hurt more than the needle in my arm. It was lying under white lights, trying to choose between the children I had given my life to, wondering which one would be least annoyed. The nurse called Daniel. No answer. She called Emily. No answer. Then she called the dispatcher from my paperwork. His name was Carl, and he answered on the second ring. I heard him through the curtain. Is he alive? Not, is the load okay? Sometimes family is the person who knows you are not fine because you always say you are. By morning, Daniel and Emily were calling non-stop. Lily had tried to video call me before school. When I did not answer, she told Daniel, "Grandpa always answers me." She noticed. Daniel called Carl first, angry and embarrassed. Carl did not yell. He just gave him the hospital name and said, "If you want to understand your father, look in the passenger seat before you come here." They sat inside that cold truck and opened it together. First, Daniel's tuition receipt from 2009. Then Emily's book list with my handwriting beside the prices. Then a photo of both of them outside our old house the day the sale sign went up. On the back I had written, "This is how we get them through." Daniel found money order stubs. Emily found a note from her first apartment manager thanking me for paying the deposit before the deadline. Under everything was the fuel receipt from that night, the one with 6 shaky words. I didn't raise you to owe me. Emily broke first. She just folded over the envelope like years had landed on her at once. Daniel sat with both hands on my steering wheel, looking through the same windshield I had looked through for most of his life. For the first time, he saw the road from my seat. When they came into my room, they looked smaller than I remembered. Daniel stood at the foot of the bed and could not speak. Emily held the envelope against her chest. Her doctor badge hung crooked on her coat. I saw her reading the monitor beside my bed, numbers she understood better than I ever could. She spent her days noticing pain in strangers, and she had missed mine.
That one line explains the whole story. Success means nothing if you forget home.
I wanted to make it easier on them. That is the weakness of fathers sometimes. Even when our children hurt us, we still reach for a way to soften their fall. Emily whispered, "Dad, why didn't you tell us?" I said, "Because every time I tried to sound tired, one of you sounded busy." Daniel covered his face. "I'm sorry," he said. This one sounded like it had nowhere to hide. Emily put her hand over mine. Her hand was warm. Mine felt like paper. She said, "We were ashamed of the wrong thing." I could have listed every missed call and every night I slept in that cab while they were warm in lives I helped them reach. But revenge is heavy, and I had carried enough. So I told them the truth. I didn't raise you so you would owe me. I raised you so you would never have to live like me. Daniel cried then. My son, who had called me just a truck driver, cried like a boy who had finally found the bill for his own comfort. After that, things did not magically become perfect. A hospital room does not repair years. One apology does not erase a phone that rarely rang. They started showing up, yes. Daniel handled forms. Emily changed her schedule and came to appointments. Lily drew my truck with angel wings, and I laughed until the nurse told me to breathe slower. But there were quiet moments when my children looked at me and realized love had not disappeared. Time had. That was the consequence. They got their father back, but they also understood they had already lost years they could never return. I still keep one receipt from that brown envelope in my wallet. Just a small tuition payment from a winter when I ate peanut butter crackers for dinner 3 nights in a row. But the truth is, it reminds all of us that love should not have to collapse before we answer it. The people who carry us do not always ask to be carried back. Sometimes they just keep driving through the night, hoping the children they raised still remember the road home.
So that was the story. If you guys like this story, that's an achievement for me, seriously. If you like this story, press the like button, subscribe button. It will motivate me, seriously, guys. Though it was a fictional story, but written very beautifully, I would say, and gives a very beautiful lesson. See you in the next, guys. Thank you.